part 2 of How to Destroy a Perfectly Good Game. Oh, maybe this is here. Bonus. Spice Harvest. This one I actually find more interesting. However, it can seriously unbalance a game of Dune. So let's talk about this. Unlike Duel, no board. What you get is these cards for each of the player powers, and they come with their special abilities, just like in Dune. You have these share cards. Harvest cards. I'll show you. Please excuse me. And access cards. All right. The goal of Spice Harvest is to set up Dune. That's basically what it comes down to. And in order to do so, what you want to do is you want to purchase these access cards, which allow you to put troops in specific locations on the board. If you don't want to place troops, you can convert your troop cards into spice, so that you have a bigger starting hand of spice in the game. Remember when I said the more advanced rules you get, the more spice you get? Well, Duel throws additional abilities to play with spice, and Spice Harvest gives you a bigger starting pile of either money in terms of spice, or in terms of different locations and everything. So you could end up, you know, with some really weird setups using Spice Harvest. You also have these vote cards that say either yes or no. The base mechanic of this is very, very simple. Someone is selected. Oh, again, like in the Duel, this comes with a few extra treachery cards, none of them too exciting. There's a Harvester that doubles a spice blow. You play it as soon as the spice comes up, and it just goes there. You can play a Thumper in order to get yourself a worm. I think there's a Thumper maybe in the Space Gamer one as well. We can take a look at those. And then an additional worthless card. Okay. So, the way this works is each player is going to be given 10 spice at the beginning of the game. Now this isn't spice for the game of Dune. This is spice just to play Spice Harvest. And I've played just Spice Harvest alone. I've heard some people play just Duel alone. That sounded kind of lame, but I guess Spice Harvest alone sounds kind of lame too. But I was really excited by the idea because it's this cool little bidding game. Bidding and bluffing and everything. And it kind of reminds me of Junta. Alright, so each player randomly gets one of the powers, one of the players, and this will be the player that they play during a game of Dune. And they each bid any amount from 0 to 10 of the spice they have on the right to become the manager of Dune, okay, for the pre-game setup. And what happens if there's a tie? Ties are settled by a die roll or flipping a player. A coin. Okay. So what's going to happen is you're going to do 5 rounds of harvests here. And the basic rule of that is the manager draws a card. Oh, the budget, she was not too good this year. The banana crop. Okay. Then he announces what the value of this card was. Yeah, this was a 15. He can say whatever he likes. Hands out share cards. Any amount of these to players, that's a commitment to give that much money to each player. This is kind of like making the commitment, yeah, okay, I give the minister $2 from Junta. I give the Air Force nothing, you know. Except these aren't announced. Okay, these are all secret and you're not allowed to discuss them. Then each player votes yes or no, secretly. Do they want it or do they not? Well, you turn them up. Yeah. Yeah, you turn them up. Each player who says yes gets whatever his share card told him. If you're handed a 0, you might as well say no, right? But if you get a yes card, if you turn up a yes card, if you vote yes for it, you will get whatever you were promised, and that comes out of the pool. The pool of money is going to be this is turned up, that amount of spice plus 3, the manager's bonus. Okay. Now, unlike in Junta, you don't want to lie about this in various ways. So, the people who voted yes are out of the contention there. Now, they've gotten their payoff. If the majority of people vote no, and the manager doesn't get a vote, and the manager lied about this amount, or didn't hand it all out, yeah. If he did not hand out exactly the amount listed on that card, right, even if he handed out more, then there's a problem. So you have to both vote, you have to have a majority of players voting no, out of the players present, and the manager has to have cheated somehow, not distributed exactly the amount that he got on the card. Now, the manager gets $3 added to that pool into his pocket, just for being a good manager. Now, let's say the manager cheated and was caught at it with no votes. Then he loses being manager, and I believe it passes to the next player on his left or something like that, which means, since there's only 5 rounds, some people will be guaranteed never, one person at least in a 6-player game, will be guaranteed never to be manager based on the bidding. And then all the no players split the remaining pot equally. If there's any excess, they have to come to an agreement on it, or it gets thrown back into the pool and comes up later. All right, great. I got some spice. What's with that? Then, a number of access cards is played face down, equal to the number of players in the game. The manager deals these cards off the top of the access pile. Remember, the access pile has disappeared. It's over here. And yes, I have marked cards. That's terrible. But whatever. Dealt face down. And then, starting to the left of that player, I believe, each player can bid on an access card. And they bid the spice they have in their hand without looking at them. And they go around until everybody stops bidding. And somebody's won it. And then that person gets that card, pays his spice, and says, oh, very nice, and puts it down. You hold on to these through the 5 rounds. You start a new round. Bidding. You draw the harvest. You vote on whether or not you accept your share, and you get to buy more of these. After 5 rounds of that, then everybody's got the right to trade these cards. Make some deals, say, I really need a location, man. I got lots of troops, but I don't have anywhere to put them. Okay, so deals are cut there where you might, sell troops for a location or whatever. Then you lose all your spice from this game. It all goes away. It was only useful for buying some kind of position on Dune. You don't get it in your Dune starting setup. Then you secretly apply your troops to locations. So for example, you could put these 2 cards together. And essentially what that's saying, there's 3 there. Essentially what you'd be saying there is, I'm going to Siege Tabar with 10 troops. And you put that face down. And you'll get 10 tokens in Dune in Siege Tabar at the start of the game. Now, there's a problem with that because I believe there's 2 of each location in here. So there's the possibility that people will be struggling over a location. And if that's done, then whoever has the most troops there gets the stronghold, but they lose the number of troops the other players committed from their total. These troops don't go into the dead pile at the beginning of the game. It's just a bid for how many troops, it's just an indication of how many troops you have. Now, if you have a lot of troops or not a lot of locations, remember you can turn these suckers in if you don't put them anywhere. If you just have a pile of troops or piles of troops, when you flip those over, those just turn into additional spice you'll start the game with. That's on top of whatever you were supposed to start with in the original Dune game. Now, each of the powers, each of the players, has their own special ability in this game. Just like in Dune, everybody has a handful of abilities. Here in Spice Harvest, they do. The Atreides' special ability is they can look at the share cards passed to one other player before making a decision on whether or not to vote yes or no. And they can also look at one of the access cards in any hand of these. So if I'm playing 6 players, 6 of those cards come out, but I get to see one of them. That'll help inform my bid or tell me something about what other people have. The Bene Gesserit, they can look at all of the access cards that other players buy, but not until they actually have bought them. They can talk as much as they like about this, and their prediction only has to be made after the full setup is done on Dune. The Guild can sell the manager a right to draw an extra harvest card. Okay? And yes, wow, that's big. You kind of don't want to, you draw that and you're like, well, I'm lying. I think I don't have the distribution written anywhere, but you can kind of get a view. That is very large, okay? There's also a worm. What does the worm do? Well, the worm triggers a special ability. But yeah. Now, if you sell that extra Spice Harvest card, the manager has to give you somewhere between 4 to 8 spice for. And you have to agree with the manager about it. You don't get to look at it. And the manager is dealing with the 2 cards as though they're a single one. Freemen get to become the manager if the worm shows up. The Emperor gets 1 spice from the manager before he draws his harvest. Therefore, you don't want to bid 10 spice on a turn, on the first turn, if the Emperor's in the game. Right? If you can't pay the Emperor, well, the manager's position passes to the next player. And for the Harkonnen, their special ability is they can get caught cheating once. They still have to give the money back and it gets divided up, but they don't lose the managership. Let me make sure I'm right. See, I'm not sure about worms. I think the only effect of the worm is to pass things to the freeman. It doesn't look like it has any other effect. And I would guess that you draw a new manager's harvest at that point. That's it. This one, again, can really unbalance the game. I find it the less dangerous of the two because duel can end the game. The truth is, when you play a game of Dune, quite often, especially with 4 or more players, quite often it comes to this kind of balance of power type situation. So somebody getting a kick-ass starting location in Spice Harvest, everybody's going to gang up on them and take them down in that first turn. This is a game kind of like Cosmic Encounter, also by the same team of designers, which is to say, it's possible to win, but probably not because of the starting position you get from Spice Harvest. But that starting position can give you quite a bit of power. You could start the game winning, but you got to make it through the first turn first. That could be pretty nasty, though. I could see the game being won on the first turn, conceivably, just because it's tough, maybe, to overcome that kind of power. If somebody's got three locations and a decent amount of money, a decent amount of troops and a decent amount of money, it's going to be kind of tough to take them out of one of those, perhaps. But we'll see. Because remember, they get the treachery cards, they get all kind of stuff. It could just be a very different kind of situation where everybody's struggling against someone very early. Could also create an alliance very early. Alright. Let's send this one up. And then I will set up Spice Harvest and start the play. The playthroughs and the intro to Dune itself are going to be over on the Dune page over on Board Game Geek. The duel intro is going to go on the duel page over on Board Game Geek. And the playthroughs, obviously, and the overall review I'm going to put in Dune itself. But I want to kind of scatter these around, I don't know, just put them in the right place or something.